Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's March 28th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and I'm going to move through this pretty quickly today. This is very similar to yesterday. I'm trying to do this a little earlier today too. I got another appointment I got to be at here shortly, and so I'm limited on my time, but I want to make sure I get this done and get it uploaded. But what looked like was going to be a range day. Just like yesterday, turns out to be a nice trend, and look at that thing go. This was an easy to find trend line. You got another chance to enter right here. Notice where all the big moves generated from, right off that key entry point. That's generally the way it works. And notice this is a key entry point, big move down, key entry point, big move up. Uh, that's what you got to be looking for. So let me back out. We'll go through the trades, and I'm not going to beat around the bush today. We'll go through them pretty quickly. You had to be a little patient this morning because this thing was dropping down during the overnight before the 7 o'clock hour, and about 7 o'clock we started going sideways. Um, this trade here, notice we made a new low, and then we got a little double test, and all your closes are up there at the same spot. So that's a double test. That strong support, really, we tested this same level a couple of times previously here. We just went a tick lower. And we're a good bit away from the EMA. So if it weren't for that trend line, or if we'd already had a close outside of it or anything, I'd say this would be blue. But at this point, I still think it's a little risky going long right there. So that's a little more aggressive. So I'm gonna leave that one green. But that turns out to be a nice move. And then of course we start working down, and you just don't really get a chance to enter this one. This would have been a nice setup here, but it's too bullish a bar, and you're getting really close to those lows. Once again, now you got a little failed break lower, again, way away from the EMA. The reason I don't like this one being blue is that it's a doji. We close right in the middle. That's almost a perfect doji. So it's a one bar trading range. Now those do tend to form at swing highs and swing lows, but I just don't think you want to risk that because we could have pulled up here and went lower, just had a failed second entry long there. But that is a second entry long too. So if you want to be aggressive just to try to ride that back, because it is a failed break lower, it's probably going to come back to the EMA to minimum. And then it does tick back here again, but again on this higher low, you're really going sideways, and you got another kind of mid-closed bar. Again, I don't like it. You might make this one green if you let it break above and you drop the limit order back in here maybe halfway. I don't know if you would have got filled on it though, so it doesn't really change anything. But then we work it up and we find resistance here at the same level we did now. Now we got a double top here, and you get a little close outside and a little failed break up. Look how far away we are from the EMA. This is why we don't enter way away from the EMA very often. It has to be a super strong trend, and even though this is a strong move up, there's a lot of buying going on there, but I think you see it ran out of steam pretty quickly. So I think that's probably just all the shorts exiting as the prices rallied. So, but then you get this reversal bar right here, and so this is a double test of this level right here. Nice bearish reversal bar, long way away from the EMA. I like riding that one back. You might have been tempted to enter long here, but this is looking too much like a range, and we just came off the high side, and this is where you got to be careful entering the middle. So I wouldn't go long there, but when it turned up and you got that failed second entry long, I like going short there just because you probably trap people, and we're probably headed to the other side. And of course it does turn down, and you got to draw this trend line right here too, and it looks like you could have looked at it like we're coming back to this trend line maybe. So turns out this is a two-tiered channel, because if you just drug this one over, you see it's a perfect fit. And so this was pretty easy to find today. Nothing real complicated about it. But yeah, you got two legs down, and then you make a higher low, reversal type bar after being in a range. I like this one. This one's close to being green, because we are swinging back and forth, and we did just come off the high, and we're not quite back to the low. But when we tried to go lower twice there, I felt pretty good that we were probably going to go higher. And then when you get the failed second entry short, I definitely like entering there because look how bearish you're going to have people trapped right there. And off it goes. And if you caught either one of these trades, you can ride this all the way. And then you get another double test of this level. Notice that it's a second entry long, right off the midline, right off the EMA. I like that one. And then you make another high, first entry, pull back another second entry long, right off the trend line, the key entry point, and notice you got a little support resistance area right there. And you really can't get a trend line here. I guess you could, but it's more sideways than it is. It's like a little drop down, fall out. And then, of course, you got this little pull back here. We just came off the low, so and it looked like we were coming off the midline, so we should have come back here. We didn't. You might enter that one, looking for it to go to the other side. You probably wouldn't have been able to get in that one anyway because it jumped real fast. But your setup could have looked a little bit different, so you might have got a chance to get in there. But with it being kind of in the middle of a midline and a trend line, I don't think you want to enter there. And you really don't get another chance to enter until it's too late. So you actually have this right here. There's actually a trend line working down through there. Of course, you wouldn't have had this trend line. You might have drawn it across those lows like that and drug it up, but you wouldn't have known. You wouldn't have had enough price action information to really know for sure if it was valid yet. But notice what happened on at least my chart here. Notice you had this little bar right here, and it opened right beside the high, and it couldn't break higher, and it turned down, and it ticked below and hit the EMA and instantly turned up and went back out the other side. You might have considered going long right there. I kind of like that trade. If it wasn't so late in the afternoon, especially when you've had such a strong trend, though, it's just, these things a lot of times just keep going and going and going. So you might have considered entering there, and you would have got just enough to get out. And but it's a little risky that late in the day. But it is right off the EMA and right off the midline. So there's some reasons to like it. And just the way it worked, it went lower first and then went out the upper side. That's generally a good sign that you got people trapped. So I liked it for that reason. But yeah, not a lot of there's only 3 or 4 blue trades here. The rest of them are, and really once you got a trend this strong going and you got a confirmed trend channel, you really are just looking for any reason to get in. So you might have entered here, you might have even entered here. This one's a little more questionable because you're going sideways. There's not really a doji in there. You went up, you went down, you went back up, you went down, and then you took off again. So there's a little two-legged move in there. If you're pretty good at spotting that kind of stuff and understanding what I'm talking about there, you might enter there too. So just because it's such a strong trend, but we did just come off the high, and that's another reason to say, hey, I better wait, because generally once you come off the high, it's not very long before you go back to the other side again. So for that reason, it's a little risky too. So, but yeah, that's what I saw today. And again, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to wrap it up. I just apologize. I have to rush through it. But it's really straightforward. There's not anything really out of the ordinary we could talk about today anyway. This is pretty straightforward. So nice trend day. What looked like was going to be a range. So, usually when it starts off like this during the day, even if it breaks out, it's going to, you're going to go a measured move, and then you're probably going to turn down again. Well, you can see how strongly that's trending. So that would have been a reason to say, hey, this is probably more of a trend. And notice how we just went right on past that level too before we came back. So, so even though we started out as a trend, once we start going high, draw your trend line and just follow the price action. Just follow that price action. Don't question why is it doing this? Why, it looked like a range day, or, and if you're going up like this and suddenly you go into a flat range, don't question it. Just trade what you see, not what you're thinking or not what you're expecting. You always want to be thinking ahead, but you can't be thinking ahead and let that trip you up either. So That's my main point. But I'm going to wrap it up. Um, we'll be back again to do it tomorrow and wrap up our week. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.